Water investing is often presented like a trend: glossy slides, aggressive return numbers, and not enough detail about how the assets actually work. That's a problem. If you can't see the engineering, the contracts, and the compliance behind a project, you can't judge its stability. Families and institutions end up making marketing decisions, not on measurable operations. There's a calmer, more reliable way to think about water. Treat it as critical infrastructure first and a financial exposure second. When you begin with the physical system, add the permits and service obligations and tie everything to operating data: flows, quality, uptime, energy. You replace guesswork with evidence. Confidence doesn't come from promises. It comes from the way a plant is designed, built, and run over time. Let's walk through how durable water projects are put together in the real world. A credible asset starts on paper. Design criteria match to a specific influent and a defined water quality target. Permits are not an afterthought. They shape the process from the first line. Construction approvals, discharge or reuse standards, monitoring requirements, and reporting. Construction is staged, tested, and commissioned against acceptance criteria that should be written into the contract long before the first pump turns on. After that, everything is operations. Useful life is planned, not assumed, with scheduled maintenance and component replacement, membranes, pumps, instrumentation, control hardware, so capacity and quality stay within spec. Revenues are defined by contracts and rules, not by hope. Availability-style payments for keeping capacity online, user fee frameworks under regulated tariffs, or long-term service and off-take agreements with clear quality standards. Those contracts should also say compliance isn't a slogan, it's the permit binder, the lab certificates that prove the water met spec. And because every hour of operation produces data, performance can be verified. Meters for flow, sensors for quality, logs for downtime, and energy readings that let you track intensity and improvement over time. That's also how environmental, social, and governance (ESG) becomes real: documented compliance, measured reuse, and freshwater offset where allowed, reductions in network losses, and reliability indicators that a community actually feels. Slow down when you see projections that float free of contracts, permits, and operating history. A beautiful deck is not a substitute for technical specs, acceptance tests, and the first months of performance data. If a model pretends membranes last forever, if it ignores the cost and compliance of handling brine or sludge, or if it leans on a counterparty with weak credit and no step-in provisions, you're looking at fragility, not stability. If you're evaluating a water asset, build your own short narrative before you commit. Describe the system and its life cycle: what's installed, how long each part is expected to last, and who is responsible for maintenance. List the permits and the monitoring they require, and check the recent compliance record. Read the contracts that define how payment is calculated and what happens when performance slips. Ask for evidence of performance, commissioning results, acceptance certificates, and a clean run of operating data, flows, quality, downtime, energy. Understand the capital structure and the controls that govern money in and out. Then finish with outcomes: the water quality targets actually achieved, the volumes of reuse that occurred where lawful, the reduction in losses if it's a distribution asset, and the reliability delivered to the people who depend on it. Only when that story makes sense on paper and in data does the word stability begin to mean something. In the United States, some water and infrastructure projects document qualifying job creation and may be structured to align with EB5 policy goals, particularly in rural areas where public policy prioritizes investment. That is context, not a promise. Any immigration outcome depends on evidence, lawful source of funds, and full compliance over time. If you want a plain language buyer's guide that walks through useful life, contracts, permits, governance, and the operating data that really matter. Learn more at invisa.info. This video is educational and does not constitute legal, tax, or investment advice. Asset performance, compliance, and any immigration outcomes depend on law, contracts, permits, and operating execution. Capital is at risk. Always consult licensed advisors for your specific situation.